Hello dear students. In today's video we are going to discuss the new chapter, that is metals and non-metals. So in the previous classes we already discussed about what are some of the general physical properties of metals. In class 8 we studied about physical properties of metals as well as certain chemical properties of metals. So first we let us look at certain physical properties of metals. So number 1, so these are the main physical properties of metal. Lustrous, because the metal surface of the metal that appears shiny. So generally metal surface is shiny. Aluminium, copper, even gold. So these metals, even mercury, it's a liquid metal. So its surface appears to be shiny. Hence hardness. So metals are generally hard. Iron nail. If you take iron nail, if you beat with what? Uh, a hammer, so then also it can resist very high amount of force. That means hardness. Metals are really hard. Exception. There are certain exceptions of this particular thing. Sodium, potassium, lithium. These metals are so soft so that it can be cut with a knife. So lustrous non-metals. At the same time, we are discussing about metals as well as non-metals. See, metals possess these properties. Lustrous. They are lustrous, hard, uh, generally they are solid in nature except mercury. That here one exception is the iodine, which is a non-metal that appears to be shiny. That is a liquid non-metal. Then next one is called malleability. So the ability with which the metals can be beaten into thin sheet. So gold, silver, and even iron sheets are there, so that it can be used for making gate and all. Then ductility, the ability of the metal by with which it can be drawn into thin wires, copper, aluminium, etc. These electrical wirings that are seen. But non-metals do not possess these two properties. Generally, metals exist in solid state except mercury, which is in liquid state. In the case of non-metals, they exist in solid, liquid as well as gaseous state. Then, metals are good conductors of heat and electricity, but non-metals are not good conductors of heat and electricity. Then, graphite, which is another example of non-metal, it's an allotrope of carbon that conducts electricity. Then silver, that is the best conductor of electricity, and copper. So these are used in electrical wirings. Then density. So what do you mean by density? It's a ratio between mass upon volume. So if the density of generally metals have possess high density, they have high density. Then exceptions are there. Sodium, potassium, lithium. These are metals possess low density. Then, as a result of that, melting point and boiling point of these metals will be less. Then, melting point and boiling point of metals are generally high, especially those metals which possess high density. The last property is sonorous. So, the metals, when beaten together, or when you beat or strike two metals each other, what will happen? They will produce ringing sound. So these are the general physical properties of metals. Uh, these physical properties will not be shown by non-metals. So especially keep in your mind all these physical properties. The next we are going to see about chemical properties of metals. So in chemical properties of metals, we are going to look at the first one, reaction of metals with oxygen. The first chapter we already discussed about metals, how they react with oxygen. Example, you can see magnesium ribbon. So as you take magnesium ribbon and burn it, what will happen? It will burn with a dazzling white flame. So here what is happening? Metal combines with oxygen. It's a combination reaction so as to form metallic oxide. So certainly metals like sodium oxide, potassium oxide, calcium oxide, magnesium oxide, aluminum oxide. So these all forms oxides. Metals generally form oxides. Metal oxides are generally basic in nature. And but non-metallic oxides, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, these non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature. And Relative tendency of metals to react with oxygen also varies. Affinity of metals towards oxygen, so that also varies. And similarly, can is sodium, potassium, lithium. These are highly reactive. These are highly electropositive metals. See, as they are highly reactive, they are stored in corrosion. Even if they come in contact with air, it will catch fire. So, as a result, what will happen? Uh, these metals are stored in corrosion. These are highly reactive. Even the exposure with the atmospheric oxygen, that's enough for letting them catch fire. So here one example I have written aluminium. How aluminium normally we need to heat, and iron. If you take an example, iron. If you take iron rod and if you heat for a long time, it will not burn. It will just become a red hot. You might have seen those blacksmiths. So what is happening here? So metals gradually, the reactivity gradually decreases. So different metals possess different reactivity. Clear? Sodium, potassium, lithium. These are highly reactive, so they immediately react with air. So aluminium, copper vessels, if they are kept in open air for a long time, so what will happen? Metallic oxide will be formed. Magnesium. So when we discuss that particular activity in chapter 1, magnesium oxide, the surface of the magnesium metal that was not that much lustrous due to the formation of dull oxide, metallic oxide. That is magnesium oxide, which is somewhat appearing dull, grayish color. So as a result of the magnesium oxide layer which is formed over the metal magnesium, what happens? The metallic luster will be not there. So once you remove this metallic oxide, what will happen? The metal surface will appear shiny. So then we are burning it with say what will happen? It will combine with oxygen so as to form metallic oxide. And when we talk about metallic oxides, certain metallic oxide like zinc oxide and aluminum oxide, these shows acidic as well as basic nature. So we can say they are known as amphoteric oxide. So because uh, these two oxides, zinc oxide and aluminum oxide, these oxides can react with both acids as well as bases so as to form salt and water. Then the next property of metals, the reaction of metals with water. So when metals generally react with water, what happens? Sodium hydroxide, corresponding metal hydroxide and hydrogen gas is liberated. So here we can see sodium metal and magnesium, sodium, magnesium, potassium, calcium. These metals catch fire even with cold water. Calcium we need little bit warm water, magnesium. Then sodium metals, what happened? Immediately as we put a small piece of magnesium, freshly cut magnesium into water, what will happen? It will start reacting with water very violently, and as a result, sodium hydroxide that is formed, which is an alkali, that means it is soluble in water. And similarly, what happens? The hydrogen gas is released, and this hydrogen gas released, what will happen? It will start catching fire. So, just like an explosion, it will happen. But if you take an iron, it's also a metal. So, if you put in water, will you see such kind of explosion? No. So, iron need steam. Steam means what? Uh, Water in vapor state. So iron can react with steam in order to form its corresponding metal oxide as well as hydrogen gas. So the temperature difference is there. So we can say conclude that yeah, even the reaction with water also metal shows difference. Then the next one that we already discussed about uh, metals and water, how they react. Uh, this is a general equation: metals plus water forms metal hydroxide and release hydrogen gas. But the intensity of this release of hydrogen gas that will be different for different metals. So the rate at which this hydrogen gas is released. If you take say example say zinc as an example, if you take zinc granules and at the same time potassium. If you take same amount of potassium and zinc and put in water, the amount of hydrogen gas released in the case of sodium will be much more and fast. But in the case of zinc or iron, uh, this won't even react with the mild to cold water. We need to heat the water, then only they will react. So there we can see what there exists some kind of differences. Even then, if I conduct a test paper, you all will score different marks. Some will score 20 out of 20, 20 out of 18. Say, what is the result? Some will score 15 or 10. Some will score even 4, 3, 2, 0. So the same way, uh, we can arrange the metals on the basis of their reactivity. Some are highly reactive. Say, for example, you can see I have written the particular series. This series is known as reactivity series, which I already mentioned about in first chapter when we discussed displacement reaction. Say how metals react with, that is our next property. Metals react with metal salt solution, that is for displacement reaction. See, in displacement reaction, what happens? We already know the definition. Displacement reaction, what is happening? Here you can see one example. A highly reactive metal, zinc, a highly reactive metal displaces a less reactive metal from its aqueous salt solution and forms its own salt and displaces the less reactive metal. FeSO4. Look at this particular reactivity series: potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminum, zinc, iron, lead, hydrogen, copper, mercury, silver, gold. These are examples of what? These are the metals that generally arranged in a form of decreasing reactivity, and this series is known as reactivity series. So in which the topmost element, that is known as more reactive, potassium is more reactive, then the next second rank goes to sodium, then calcium third rank, fourth, fifth. The least reactive is gold. So we can see, suppose sodium can displace potassium, but is it? So potassium can displace sodium, sodium can displace calcium, calcium can displace magnesium, but magnesium cannot displace calcium from its salt solution, because what? The rank of magnesium is below. So the metals at the top of the reactivity series can displace the metals which are placed at the bottom of the reactivity series. The metals at the top can displace the metals from its salt solution just below that. So this particular part we understood clear. So copper sulfate solution. If you take anil and put in copper sulfate solution, after some time what will happen? We already seen that the blue color of the copper sulfate will slowly change into light green color, and thereby copper will start depositing on what? Iron nail, so that a brownish deposit of copper can be seen on iron nail. So this particular reaction is known as displacement reaction, that gives us an exact arrangement or which metal is highly reactive or which metal is less reactive. So just like a test paper, displacement reaction can be used in order to arrange the metals in the order of decreasing reactivity, and this series is known as reactivity series. So this is very important for the purpose of examination. So examination point of view, you need to remember, you need to by heart this particular series, and similarly, so which will be useful. So we can, if you know this series, we can complete the displacement reaction, which reaction will take place or which will not take place. Okay, I hope you understood. Then now let us move to the next chemical property of metal. The first two, let us just rewind it. First one, metals plus oxygen, then metal oxide is formed, then metals plus water, metal hydroxide and hydrogen gas. Third one, metals plus metal salt solution, that is displacement reaction. Corresponding metal salt plus the less reactive metal will be getting displaced. Then reactivity series we discussed, and the next one is what? The reaction between metals and non-metals. So generally, how this particular reaction, we already looked at metals reacting with different chemicals, oxygen, water, then metal salt solution. How these metals will react with a non-metal? So what is the relation? Say, let's say one simple example: sodium chloride. Sodium chloride, sodium metal. So what is the electronic configuration of sodium? 281. Atomic number of sodium is 11. So number of electrons will be 11. So we can see 281, 2 electrons in the K shell. Then we already know that. Then L shell 8 electron, then M shell 1 electron. So this 1 electron we are depicting. After all, writing the symbol of sodium, we are uh, using a dot. We are representing the outermost electron or valence electrons. That means only one. So if this sodium loses this 1 electron, what can happen? In the innermost shell, 8 electrons will come. So that means it will attain stability octet. And say similarly, we can see sodium metal. It has got one valence electron. Clear? So it can easily lose that electron. So that its valency become what? Plus 1. Now you look at chlorine. Chlorine atom. Chlorine, the valency of chlorine is minus 1. So how it come minus 1? What? The electronic configuration of chlorine is 287 because atomic number is 17. So we can see that 17 electrons are there. 2 electrons in the first shell, K shell, 8 in the second shell, and 7 in the third shell. So chlorine requires one more electron. Electrons, as they are negatively charged, the charge on the electron is minus. So what will happen? This electron, the electron which is lost by sodium, that will be accepted by chlorine atom. So as a result, what will happen? This uh, electron that is given by sodium, that will be accepted by chlorine. So as a result, what will happen? If sodium loses one electron, what happens? It will become positively charged. As a result, that's why I am writing here Na plus cation. And what happened at the same time? Chlorine atom is gaining that electron, so that it becomes negatively charged. Clear? So you just make watch this particular part again. So similarly, you can write magnesium oxide formula, magnesium oxide. Similarly, you can write the aluminium oxide, Al2O3. So different compounds. This this particular representation is known as Lewis representation, Lewis symbols. These dots and cross symbols. How this particular reaction is happening. See, sodium chloride, sodium and chlorine. These react to form sodium chloride. Clear? Sodium chloride. How this particular this sodium chloride, in which sodium metal part that loses electron. So that's why metals are known as electropositive in nature. Then chlorine is a non-metal that gains electron because it has got already 7 electron in its outermost shell. So it requires one more electron. So there is no need to lose all the 7 electrons so that in order to attain the octet. Clear? So here what happens? Chlorine gains this one electron so that it becomes a univalent anion. That means its valency becomes minus 1. So because it accepts one electron, and as a result, it gets unique negative charge, or it becomes a chloride ion or minus anion. So this is what happening when a metal react with a non-metal, and such compounds have got a special name. See here what is happening. The compounds are formed as a result of transfer of electrons. Here one electron is completely given or transferred to what? Chlorine atom. Suppose if I give you a dairy milk to you. So I am losing one dairy milk and you are getting one dairy milk. Is it? So, in the same way, sodium is losing the dairy milk or losing the electron, but chlorine is gaining that electron. So, as a result, sodium becomes positively charged and chlorine becomes negatively charged. So, two ions are formed. Is it? One is positively charged ion and the other is negatively charged ion. So, as a result, we can name these compounds as ionic compounds. So if you look at sodium chlorides, we already seen that acid conduct electricity, bases conduct electricity. Similarly, we can prove that sodium chloride also conducts electricity, not in the solid state, but in the molten state, or we can say if it is in a solution. If you heat sodium chloride at very high temperature, 1080 degree, so what will happen? Sodium chloride crystals will start melting. That state is known as molten state. In molten state means what? The sodium ion is free to move, chloride ion is free to move, so they will move here and there, and as a result, the circuit will get completed, and what? The solution will start conducting electricity. So this we already discussed in the previous chapter about how acid conduct electricity. The same way, the cation will move to cathode and anions will move to anode, and as a result the circuit will get completed, so the bulb will start glowing. So we can understand that salt solutions will also conduct electricity. And the next properties of ionic compounds. Ionic compounds are formed as a result of complete transfer of electrons. Then next is the properties of ionic compounds. So here we can see as a result of oppositely charged ions, so there will be much higher force of attraction between positively charged sodium ion and negatively charged chlorine. There will be very high force of attraction, and this force of attraction makes them in bind them together, and as a result, these ionic compounds that exist in solid state. This electrostatic force of attraction, this is positively charged and negatively charged. It's the oppositely charged. They will attract each other, and as a result, what will happen? They will exist in solid state. Then they are somewhat hard and they are brittle also. If you take some crystal of sodium chloride and if you throw it in the ground, what will happen? It will break. That's what it is called, brittle. Then what about melting and boiling points? Melting and boiling points of ionic compounds are very high because they are closely bound together. Sodium ion and potassium chloride ion. So these are bound together with high force of attraction. So in order to break them apart, we need to heat them more and more. So that's why melting point and boiling point of ionic compounds will be very high. And similarly, we can see that they are soluble in water. If you take crystals of sodium chloride, potassium chloride, calcium chloride, any of the salt, aluminum chloride, aluminum nitrate, or what all the salt we studied already in the previous chapter, that is acidic salt, basic salt, neutral salt, these are salts. So the salt metal as a result of metal non-metal reaction. So these salts formed, they are soluble in water. Some are soluble in water, some are not soluble in water, and they are not soluble in kerosene. Kerosene is an organic solvent. So as these are polar bonds, these polar in nature, that is sodium and chlorine, they are possessing charge. So they will be soluble in water because water is a polar solvent. Then the last point is that they will conduct electricity in molten state, not in solid state. If you take a crystal of sodium chloride, it cannot conduct electricity in solid state because the movement of ions will not take place there. In order to start moving these particles in class 9, we studied about in solid state the particles are fixed at one particular point. Clear? While we heat, what will happen? Slowly they will start vibrating. As a result of this vibration, they will break away the force of attraction and they will start moving here and there very easily. So in that state, when these ions are free to move in the solution form, in the liquid form, So what will happen? They will start conducting electricity. Clear? So electricity, conduction of electricity, that will happen when they are in molten state or in aqueous solution state. So these are the general properties of metals and non-metals, especially physical properties and the chemical properties. Go through it very carefully. Watch it 2 or 3 times and fix all these things into your mind very carefully. And the remaining part is not included in your syllabus. Only certain basic ideas of metallurgy. Those parts are not included in your syllabus. So uh, there is no need to revise that particular part. Okay, why I have already given the syllabus to you. If anybody has got any doubt, you just refer to that syllabus. If someone missed that syllabus, you get it and revise the chapters according to the syllabus only. Clear? The deleted portions or the deleted portions you just avoid. Clear? So go through all these particular points and note all these important points. So make this all what I have written on the board, you can write it in your notebook, not copy, so that it will become like what, a mind map. So which is also important. So these are things written in a short format. So this will, if you look at these particular things altogether, it will be very easy to remember or revise. During revision it will be useful. Clear? I think you got no need to read the entire textbook about all the time. So just if you go through all these points, then everything will come to your mind very easily. So I hope you understood this particular part. If anyone has got any doubt, you can contact me. My WhatsApp number, you can call me, no problem. So I am ready to help you, happy to help you. Study well and stay safe. So don't go much out. Nowadays the pandemic situation, you can see the COVID is spreading much like a wildfire. So keep yourself, wash your hands properly after touching or going out while coming in. Then wear mask properly, covering your nose, mouth, everything properly. So behave well, study well, and stay safe. Okay. So for your, you can take a screenshot of this particular part and save it in your mobile. Later you write it in your copy. Okay. Thank you.